I bought this N64 back in 2022 for €143. That was actually 26 years after this console's original release, which was 1996. But why?
Why?
There are some modern official solutions to play on these older systems, or at least play the games of these older systems on modern hardware, like the Nintendo Switch, with the Nintendo Switch online subscription that you can buy. And then you can go ahead and, for example, SNES, NES, N64 I think is in the bigger subscription model. But yeah, you can play these older games officially through Nintendo on a Switch or Switch 2 if you own one. My problem with those solutions is that you don't really own your games. With this, I have the game physically in my hand. I just bought this off the second-hand market and it is mine now because Nintendo obviously doesn't officially sell these games and this console anymore. So yeah, that is one of the biggest reasons, like just ownership in general for console and the games, why I started collecting these old systems again, especially older Nintendo consoles. And in the last two videos in this series, we talked about the Nintendo Entertainment System and the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. So naturally, now we have to take a look at the N64, Nintendo's official jump into 3D. So first off, let's talk about the console itself. Just like the SNES, this one also has a top-loaded cartridge, but instead of pressing the eject button and then taking out the game and then just putting it back in this case you can just rip it out, take a new game, put it in and start playing again. Very different, these two systems, to the NES, where you had to open this, put it in and then close it, and if you want to take it out again you would have to press up and then grab it here. Then we get to the buttons. In the NES case you have a power and a reset button in front here. The SNES then had a power switch and a reset button, as well as the eject button like I mentioned. And the N64 basically expanded on the SNES again, with a power switch on the same side, just a bit thinner. Then we have a reset button, and in this case no eject button but a memory expansion slot, which if we open this, there is indeed something in here, I guess a memory expansion, but it says on the label here, don't remove this label, so I just don't. Basically, it is what it is. Then also compared to the SNES and NES, we have 4-player slots for the controller, which the NES and SNES only had 2-player buttons. There were expansions like gadgets you can put in front here for 4 players, for example, for the SNES and NES, but yeah, the N64 just comes with 4-player slots right out of the box. And if we flip it around, there is a lot of space here. That space is actually for the big power brick that is like externally, I guess in this case, when you carry it around and you just plug it in here into that little spot, which can be a bit finicky. Oh no, it's in. Okay, it is in. It's a bit weird because as you can see, it's a bit wonky because this thing actually only slides into one connector port. And yeah, that makes it a bit loose, but it works. And is a pretty nice solution to just having the cable here and the console like as one package, compared to the SNES, for example, where you had an external big power brick. And also, if we look at the back side here, just like the SNES, we now have only one multi-out adapter instead of multiple audio and video outputs on the NES. But yeah, with that, we are pretty much done with the console itself. I guess you could talk about the design, for example, compared to the other two. It is a bit smaller than the SNES and way smaller than the NES. I guess this one's just a brick, but we love the NES, okay? If you haven't seen the videos on these two, will be linked in the top right. But yeah, the design is just really cool. This is a very classic console with banger games like Ocarina of Time, Mario 64, obviously the big ones. Speaking of games, let's get into some of the games I actually own. So these are all of the games that I currently own for the N64. First off, we have Rayman 2: The Great Escape. good game. I actually played Rayman 2 on my Nintendo DS Lite back in the day, which was one of like the first games I played on my DS. And yeah, this is just a good game. And it's nice to see like the N64 version of this one now. Also very impressive with this. The second game immediately jumps to 3D. I think the first Rayman game was 2D, and then immediately the second entry in the series is 3D. And it's actually a good game, so I guess well done in this case, Ubisoft. Then we have next up Banjo Kazooie. Obviously a classic. I mean, the menu music alone is a banger and used so often in YouTube videos. Also, good platformer game. I still need to continue playing this. I played like 2 hours of this so far, and it's already been a while again. But yeah, Banjo Tooie is also on my like looking out to buy list, but we will get to that list in a second. Continuing, a bit of a genre shift from Banjo Kazooie, Doom 64. Obviously, as a big Doom enjoyer, especially the modern games like Doom Eternal and Doom Dark Ages, I had to get this. When we get to the controller, I want to talk about this a bit more because the controls on the original N64 controller are super weird. But overall, good game. I guess I wouldn't really recommend buying this for an N64 to play it. You could just buy the remake, remade, reimagine, whatever on PC that shipped with Doom Eternal back in the day. It's like €5 on Steam, maybe get it on a sale for like €2, I don't know. But you know, if you want to own it physically, this is like the best solution, obviously, with what I mentioned at the beginning of this video. These are not 3 games, these are actually 2 games. I lied, because the bottom one, you already saw it in the beginning here. Oh my god, this cartridge is way heavier than the rest. Then let's start with the heavy one. Ocarina of Time for the N64. But as you can see, this and this game are in original packaging, which is insane. Like I said, the cartridge is weirdly heavier than the other games, especially Doom 64. It's very light. This is a bit heavier. Interesting. I mean, we get to the cartridge design later instead of CDs in this video, but yeah, Zelda Ocarina of Time, very good game. I'm gonna make B-roll footage of this anyways to show you on screen. The original packaging for Zelda Ocarina of Time, and for this with the instruction manual inside and the cartridge obviously for the game, I paid exactly €100 at a local store here in Germany. I always love reading old instruction manuals like this one, and it's in actually pretty decent condition. Like the corners mostly are like a bit worn and torn, but yeah, you get some story stuff. And like with these older systems, especially when we now jumped from 2D to 3D games, these explain every menu option and how to move around in like a 3D space with the new joystick of the N64 controller, and what the C buttons do, that you can like move the camera in a 3D space. It's actually pretty cool. Like all the items get explained. I just love going through these because, for example, in German, in my native language, we back in the day used to spell das with a scharfes S, but nowadays we just use das with double S. There's a change in like how you write it nowadays, and these older manuals always write das with a sharp S, and it's so funny to see that nowadays because no one types das with a sharp S nowadays. Very nice. That's really cool. I'm just gonna keep this here. And then we get to the other big one, Mario 64. Obviously, when talking about the N64 and games I bought and tried to get, I had to get Mario 64 because that is like the first game you think of, maybe except like Zelda Ocarina of Time, when you think of the N64. Just like Ocarina of Time, I have the full packaging and manual for Mario 64. As you can see, compared to the Ocarina of Time one, The top here is a bit more damaged, but all in all, it's in pretty good condition. This is a bit thinner, like manual-wise, than Ocarina, because Ocarina obviously has way more items and stuff to explain, I guess, and a bit more lore that is more relevant to obviously a linear story game than Mario 64. You get the princess and then you're done. Yeah, so at the beginning there's like a bit of dialogue, the story, that's basically it. And then we also have stuff that explains, for example, how to walk. It is, if you slightly tilt the stick on the N64 controller, you walk, and if you fully press it outwards, then you run. And then it also goes through a bit of explaining the movements of Mario in a 3D space, and like wall jumping, side jumping, triple jumping, and combat as well, and how to throw Bowser. I guess that's a pretty cool artwork. It just goes basically through the overworld as well. That's actually a pretty nice top-down picture of Hyrule Castle. Castle. That's actually a pretty nice overview of Princess Peach's castle. And then it explains like red, green and blue blocks, what they do. Again, the C buttons, the yellow ones like up, down, left, right, what it does to the camera in a 3D space, because that's basically the big thing of the N64, the jump to 3D. And back in the day you had to explain that to people like, hey, this is how you approach a 3D world. And at the end here there's like advertisement for the Club Nintendo magazine, I guess. That's pretty cool. As a subscription, this magazine costs 29,95 Deutsche Mark, D-Mark, DM. Because before Germany had Euro as well, we had the Deutsche Mark. So that is also, whoa. Okay, but yeah, let's put that back into safekeeping, into the packaging. That is the collection so far as of early 2026. Ocarina of Time and obviously Mario 64 are like my big prize possessions for this console. But these are the games that I own now. I would also in the future love to own, for example, the Mario Party 1, 2 and 3. Like the Mario Party games. Obviously Mario Party games, always fun. Would be pretty cool to re-experience, or for the first time experience, playing a Mario Party game locally with like 2 or 3 or 4 players on an original N64. Then another game, obviously I have Banjo Kazooie. I would love to own Banjo Tooie as well. Then something I played on the Nintendo DS that I own, Diddy Kong Racing. Just a good racing game. Speaking of racing games, Mario Kart 64, obviously. I think the first Mario Kart was for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, and the second one was Mario Kart 64, correct me if I'm wrong. When we have these two games here, like big speedrunning scene, I would also like to, as a normal playthrough actually, experience GoldenEye 007, because you always just see speedruns of it. They are very interesting, very cool, but it would also be kind of cool to experience the original in the like intended way. And actually own it. Like I keep mentioning ownership in this series. And last but not least, games I would love to own. Actually kind of a meme, the Superman game. I will probably never get it, or if I see it available for some godforsaken reason, it would probably be way too expensive. But yeah, that would be like a meme purchase I would like to own. It's Superman. It's like the super bad with the controls fly through the rings game, and it sucks apparently. So that would be a fun addition to the collection. But yeah, let's put the games over here, and I will actually put the console on the side as well, because we now talked about the console itself, how it's a step up from the SNES, and we talked about the games I currently own, but we almost seemingly skipped the most important part of a console, how you control your games. And this controller is so weird, obviously. This is like the odd one out. It's such a weird design, and just a first try at how do we incorporate a joystick and more buttons, I guess. One big point reoccurring in the GameCube as well later on is the Z button at the back here. So most normally you would think you hold it like this, and I actually gave it to someone I know, and here, want to play around, and they started holding the controller like this. Nintendo actually wanted to put your left hand on the Z and joystick, and I guess you can reach the start button as well, and your right hand on the C buttons R and BA. It's very weird. You have like the controller here, but then there's like this extra stuff for the D-pad and left trigger, and I still don't know until nowadays how you're supposed to reach the L button, because like I mentioned when playing Doom 64, it's super weird. I'm gonna put like gameplay on screen of me using the controller and having the game on screen, because you can strafe left to right with L and R, but how am I supposed to reach L if my left hand is on the joystick and the Z button, I think for shooting? How am I supposed to strafe to the left? Do I have to be like with the right hand over here for a second? I guess you can reach the D-pad here, but in most games you don't really need the D-pad anyways. Haven't played that much of my N64 games, and I didn't have to use the D-pad yet, I think. And obviously one more thing with this controller is the legendary C buttons. Instead of like a second stick, because we only started using one joystick for movement, this is basically used for like using items, or in Ocarina of Time playing like songs. And in most games with the up C button, you can go into like a first person mode and then use the joystick to look around the environment. But yeah, other than that, the controller also up here has, if you press this down and pull it out, can I actually pull it out? It's actually pretty hard in there. Oh, okay. Yeah, in this case, this is a controller pack. And there is different stuff, like this is a controller pack. There's also a rumble pack. So if you put the rumble pack in your controller here, and then something in the game happens, if the game supports it, I think Donkey Kong 64 supports a rumble pack, then your controller actually vibrates. So, ooh, wow. Next up, as like an additional fun fact, I mentioned the controller pack before with like the rumble pack and stuff like that you can like swap out. Something I mentioned, why did we still use cartridges with Nintendo when, for example, the original PlayStation was already out and it used CDs? From what I could find online, apparently Nintendo still insisted on using cartridges because, for one, they already had like the infrastructure for it, and you could like expand inside the cartridges, like give the game more power if it needed. That's why, for example, I think Ocarina of Time feels way heavier than Banjo Kazooie, so they're like expandable, I guess you could say. And the load times for like the player experience when you're actually playing the games on your console, they are way faster than with a CD. Like a CD did have larger storage capacity, yes, for like bigger games, more files. For example, for the original PlayStation, I think I have Final Fantasy VII, and those games had big video files for the cutscenes, and I don't think those would have fit on like the cartridges. But yeah, at the same time, CDs did have a longer loading time between levels, or wherever there was a loading zone, and there was some occasional lag or some lag spikes with using CDs. So that's, I guess, why Nintendo stuck with cartridges. And I'm kind of glad nowadays, like looking back and collecting these, because I always feel like cartridges don't break as easily or get like as much wear and tear on like the connectors and stuff. By the way, you're not supposed to do this, to blow on your cartridge if it doesn't work and then put it in again and oh, it works suddenly. There are some like cleaning sets for this, and I would love to make like a short of it if I buy something like that. If someone has like recommendations, leave a comment down below. I would be very thankful. But yeah, overall, the N64 is a very iconic, very nostalgic console for many people. Like I mentioned, didn't have this back as a child, but now I have it. It's a must-have basically for a retro collection, especially with like the N64 controller design. Very iconic, very weird, and obviously great games, iconic games like Mario 64 and Ocarina of Time. Very great speedrunning games as well. And these two specifically laid like the foundation for some of Nintendo's best game design and level design. For example, I've heard someone mention in a Twilight Princess video that Twilight Princess is basically Ocarina of Time 2. I can see where they're coming from, makes a lot of sense, because Wind Waker for the GameCube, which will be the topic of the next video, is basically a bit more of an outlier from comparing these three with the open sea exploration and stuff like that. But other than that, Twilight Princess, Ocarina, both more linear games. The dungeon order is basically, like, element-wise very similar. You also ride Epona in that game, and you have like a big Hyrule field and stuff. Obviously there are big differences between the games, but I think, yeah, I can see where the guy who said it was coming from. These are big foundations for Nintendo's level design and open world design and overall game design. Great jump from 2D to 3D games by Nintendo. And yeah, let me know down in the comments below, what is your favorite console so far? Do you prefer the SNES, NES or N64? And what are some of your favorite games from back in the day? And maybe some recommendations for games for the N64 that I need to absolutely get my hands on, like need them in my collection. So yeah, leave a like and subscribe as well if you're interested in more retro, Linux and gaming stuff. And yeah, I will see you in the GameCube video. Bye bye. And then upgrading the SNES to the NES design. Please leave like a comment. 9. As if it turned off now, bro. I'm almost at the end of this video.